If you want, you can write in the chat where you are joining from, which is always a nice thing to see. Norway. Namibia. Germany. Morocco. So it's really good to see the European, African, Tunisia, Nigeria, Croatia. So welcome to this webinar on secure, clean, and affordable energy for Africa. My name's Zachary Smith. I'm a Horizon Results Booster expert, and Horizon Results Booster is supporting this webinar. Just a quick word about us. Horizon Results Booster is an initiative of the European Commission to support European funded projects in working together with other European funded projects that have a similar topic to have effective dissemination, but also there are other modules to do with go-to-market and exploitation of projects and making sure they are not only successful in reaching a wide range of stakeholders, but also in going beyond the actual project lifetime as well. So my company is Trust IT Services, which is one of the two providers of this service. And now I will speak to you about the webinar itself. So this is our agenda. We'll be hearing from 5 different projects today, from ENERGICA, Reffect Africa, SESA, SophiA, and SteamBioAfrica. And then we'll have a time at the end where if you have questions, please do write them in the chat or the Q&A on Zoom. And then we will have a time at the end to answer any of your questions, and also for the panelists to answer some questions that we've prepared. Just some quick housekeeping. Do post questions in the chat or in the Q&A feature. All questions will be answered, however, at the end of all of the presentations, so not after each presentation. If time allows, during the Q&A session, I could also take questions from people who raise their hands, and I can give you the ability to have audio and ask a question. The webinar is being recorded, and it will be published by the projects, I imagine, on their YouTube, and the slides will also be published and shared. So we can send them out to you as well, because through Zoom we have your email addresses, so we can also just send them to you afterwards. Now let's just get started. So I'm going to hand over the mic to ENERGICA, and I'll let you both introduce yourselves and share your presentation. So let me just stop.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Aminata Doumbouya, and I am the CEO and founder of Freetown Waste Transformers here in Sierra Leone, West Africa. And we are part of the ENERGICA consortium, which is a consortium that's demonstrating 3 technologies. And Boris will talk a little bit about that, but Sierra Leone is a demonstration site, which FWT is working with the waste transformers out of Holland to place an anaerobic digester, which is a biodigester that converts organic waste to electricity. And it's also combined with a solar system that will be purifying water for the communities. But you'll hear a little bit more about that when Boris goes through the ENERGICA presentation. Boris, I hand over to you.
Very nice to see you, Ami. Given the distance, nice to hear from you, and very happy to be here today for the Horizon Results Booster webinar. My name is Boris Heinz, and I'm a professor of community energy and adaptation to climate change at Technical University Berlin, and we coordinate the ENERGICA project. I would straight to go sharing the screen, and I hope that you can see it now in full screen mode. Maybe you can quickly let me know
Yes,
if you...
yep, I can see it.
Okay, great. Yeah, it is great to present to you our project, which is called ENERGICA, Green Transition and Energy Access in Urban and Rural Africa, Secure, Clean and Affordable Energy in Africa. ENERGICA is a project which is made up of 28 partners from various countries. It has an equal share of American Union partners and European Union partners. It runs for 4 years, started in November 2021 and will come to an end in November 2025. The total budget is around 12 million euro. And as you can see here, we have various partners from various backgrounds. We have companies, for example, the Freetown Waste Transformers, the Waste Transformers, Nanoe, Trialog, Hive Power. We have universities as ourselves, Technical University Berlin. We have the NTUNU in Norway. We have NGOs like Kudara. We have regional associations like ICRI, ACRI, and SACRI. So we have a mix of expertise and backgrounds in the project. The concept of the ENERGICA project and its overall target is to develop appropriate and easily replicated methodologies for energy access technologies. So we are at the point of where access to energy is provided from the beginning, as well as to tailor these solutions so that they are used or like taken up and sustainably used during the project as well as beyond the project. And for this, there are 3 locations. One location is in rural Madagascar in villages. There's one location which is an urban location in Nairobi, in Kenya. And there is the 3rd demonstration site in Sierra Leone, a peri-urban demonstration site. So the energy access topic is overarching over these 3 demonstration sites. However, as you already heard, we have a rural context on Madagascar, we have a peri-urban context in Sierra Leone, and we have an urban context in Kenya. I will say more to the solutions on the following slides. But already here to mention, this project is about developing and adapting solutions to the local needs and requirements for the contexts, which vary from rural to urban. In Madagascar, this is productive nanogrids. In Sierra Leone, this is a biodigester for bio-waste to electricity and water. And in Kenya, this is about smart and sustainable e-mobility in an urban context. The special objectives describe very well the project and the focus areas. We have 8 specific objectives in this project. Special objective 1 is integrated productive use systems in innovative nanogrids addressing the water energy food nexus. So here you can see that it's productive use of energy and water energy food. So we are talking about electricity for cooling, electricity for rice processing, as well as household supply. Demonstrate water purification and biogas, low-tech, cost-effective systems addressing as well the water energy food nexus. So here we talk about water purification, so water, clean water as an output, biogas, and energy as an an output from biomass that is in Sierra Leone. And special objective 3 is for the third context that ENERGICA takes place in, for the urban one. And here we are talking about grid flexibility, smart battery management and swapping for e-mobility, so that two-wheelers that run on electricity can swap batteries efficiently if they are almost empty and can continue to ride, in coupling with the grid stability and this battery charging, which needs to happen in the background. Overarching objectives are, for example, special objective 4, dedicated local community-based structures for the uptake of renewable energy technologies. So in all these locations that we work in and where we design the adapted solutions, there is always the connection to the local community, the community that is made up of the implementers, the users, the operators, the person that receive and use outputs, as well as people that are in some way in touch with the solutions. It is the ambition to set up replicable solutions. We have already seen this in the introductory slide. So while we adapt the solution to the context, and these contexts are specific and diverse, as we have seen, we also want to reflect how this could look in other places. Capacity building and knowledge transfer programs are included, as well as tailored business models, circular economy models, and local value chain analysis. Special objective 8 is a higher level objective into which then the previous can feed after they kind of prepare the contents, and that's the fostering of the European Union and African Union collaborations on this topic, and under the green transition. So now to the demonstration sites. We have the rural demonstration site. I already mentioned that this is about proactive nanogrids in 50 villages, where we have an off-grid situation in which households receive electricity, as well as local entrepreneurs use that electricity for productive uses. And productive uses could be rice hullers, it could be cooling, it could be ice generation to cool fish, and it could be for pumping water. We have the urban demonstration site with electric motorcycles and swappable batteries. So this is about motorcycles in Nairobi and in urban traffic. Service of swappable batteries and swapping stations for electric motorcycle fleet. 15 main motorcycle hubs in urban and suburban areas of Nairobi. So we have some form of hubs where batteries are charged, stored, and swapped, where drivers can drive up, swap the batteries, and then continue their ride. And we have the peri-urban demonstration site in Sierra Leone, the biogas water system. Only 28% of health facilities have access to reliable electricity in sub-Saharan Africa. Food security is directly tied to access to fertilizer, and long-term sustainability of agricultural production relies on replenishment of soil organic content to maintain fertility. So this is like the starting point to set the context, and the solution, where I also invite you, Ami, if you want to contribute here at this point, is a small-scale biogas digester to serve electricity and heat. So energy is one output. There's a side product of fertilizer, which directly feeds into food production and food security. And through a coupling with a water purification system, there's also the benefit of purified and water production as another output. And with this, I would be already at the end of my presentation, still having 2 minutes or 3. I'm Not sure, Ami, if you want to
Yeah.
mention further points here, or if I did it well so far, but please feel free to come in if you want to emphasize certain points.
Sure, you did it very well. I just want to add that in addition to the 28% of health facilities, the general situation in Sierra Leone is that energy access rates are just below 30%, right? So it's not just even the hospitals, it's generally we're challenged with energy access, with grid power generation just being slightly over 120 megawatts of electricity being generated across the country. So we have a lot of energy access challenges. And in addition, the waste management sector is grappled with a lot of inefficiencies as well. Waste collection is not organized. So utilizing at least the organic portion of waste and converting it to electricity is also solving that issue, right? So this demonstrator will look to tackle sanitation, energy access, and food security. I just wanted to reiterate that. Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, and with this, we're at the end of the presentation of the ENERGICA project and looking forward to the discussion later.
Thank you, Boris. And thank you, Ami. All right, so now we're handing over to Reffect Africa. And so...
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm going to share my presentation.
Great. So I think there's also Banasco here as well. So if you both want to introduce yourselves.
Good morning to everyone. My name is Roque Aguado from the University of Jaén. I'm here to substitute my colleague David Vera, who's the project coordinator and could not attend today due to other commitments. And another member of our team, Banasco, will continue with the presentation after I finish my part. It's structured. This presentation is structured in two parts. The title of the presentation is the same as the title of the project, Reffect Africa, renewable energies for Africa, effective valorization of agri-food waste. Here you can see an overview of the project, of the Reffect Africa project. We are 19 partners. As I mentioned, the project is coordinated by the University of Jaén. There are several different kind of organizations, types of organizations within the project. There are research and development organizations, companies, SMEs, and other public bodies, such as two non-governmental organizations. For example, we have NASCO. And as universities, we have the University of Jaén, University of Huelva, University of Pisa, and other companies such as Sen Engineering or Ancron. The project involves 11 African countries, which are grouped, as you can see on the slide, in 3 clusters that are organized for proximity. And these clusters are the North, West, and South clusters. There are also 5 European countries involved in this project, and the project is going to last for 5 years. It started in November 2021 and will last until October 2026. The budget is slightly above 8 million euros. Here you can see an overview of the main objectives of the Reffect Africa project, which is basically the installation and validation of 3 full-scale biomass gasification demonstrators in 3 countries belonging to each of those 3 clusters that I mentioned previously: Morocco, Ghana, and South Africa. Another objective is to perform a life cycle assessment of each biomass value chain before and after the solution, before and after the installation of the biomass gasification plant. And the last objective is to establish 3 living labs, living laboratories for further research and networking. And here in the slide, you can see a brief overview of the main idea of the project, which is to convert wastes from the agri-food industry or from agriculture into electricity, biochar, and heat through the biomass gasification technology. Here we are going to focus on the Ghana demonstrator, which is the demonstrator that has undergone the most advancements in terms of operation and commissioning and so on. And it's located, as you can see, on the Savannah region of Ghana. It's called Tuna, the community where the biomass gasification plant is going to be installed. Here, at the right of the slide, you can see the main challenges that the Tuna community currently is facing, which is mostly lack of electricity supply, lack of access to drinking water, high unemployment rate, and of course, a large amount of agricultural wastes that are not currently valorized or properly managed, such as you can see on the slide, cashew or peanut shells. And the idea is to address these challenges, the lack of access to water and electricity, through the use of or better management of their biomass waste. Here you can see an aerial view of the biomass gasification demonstrator, where it's a hybrid off-grid electricity generation system. It consists of a 20 kilowatt biomass gasification plant that is fueled with peanut shells. There's also a PV facility around 20 kilowatt, which is supported by batteries around 60 kilowatt hours. And there's also, in the picture, you can see the control room and a cooling room for storing food, fresh produce. Here you can see in this slide the recent advancements of the projects. The civil works are almost complete. Right now they are complete. It consists of 3 houses, or 3 rooms, a concrete platform and covering, and there's also a PV structure. You can also see pictures of the gasification plant and the PV facility. And at the right, you can see pictures of the commissioning of the biomass gasification plant, which took place in February this year, 2022. It lasted for around 15 days, sorry. And the project also contemplates training and dissemination activities at the demo site, at the demonstration site. Finally, here you can see some on these slides the solutions that these projects proposes for the tuna community, an overview, which is mostly the generation of renewable energy, mostly PV and biomass based, the use of peanut and cashew shells that are currently produced in the surroundings are not properly managed. And this project also intends to boost job creation in the area, or mostly qualified jobs such as technical operators, welders, and logistics. And another problem that this project is intended to address is the lack of access to drinking water through drinking water production. Here you can, I am going to share a video of the current status of the demonstrator that was recently published in LinkedIn social media. Can you see? Yeah.
Yeah, we can see.
Okay. I'm going to continue with the last slide of the part with the panel questions.
So sorry, can we save these for the end? Sorry,
Okay.
we'll talk about them towards the end. So I'm
Okay,
glad you've
cool.
got answers. So we can move on to your colleague.
To my colleague Vanasco.
Hi, everybody. My name is Joseph Fossen, and I'm here instead of Banasco, who is currently engaged, and his background is not favorable to facilitate, but I'll be in this instead. So we can move on to the next slide. We are going to discuss how or the exact place in Ghana where the demonstrator site is located. So in Ghana, the demonstrator site is located in Tona, which is a community ideally located in the Tona Kauba constituency. So this community has 6 neighboring community, which a lot of farming activities go on. And so that means that there are a lot of agricultural waste in these 6 communities that is surrounding Tona. And so that means that it is an ideal place that we have this demonstration site so that we can able to source primary agricultural waste. So there's also high unemployment rates in the community, and there's electricity lacking in the community as well. And so we decided to choose Tona for this demonstrator site. And so, like we mentioned, the image you see on your right is the ICT center of NASCO feeding mines. And then the image beneath that is the current state of the kitchen of Tona Secondary School. So based on the high unemployment rate in the region and the electricity needs of the school, the community, and the ICT center, and then the high agricultural waste that is produced in the community, and inadequate proper water treatment systems in the region is why we decided to have that demonstrator site in Tona. So we began the project by reaching out to farmer groups and making sure that they understand the project and they are involved in the project cycle. So they understand that they do not necessarily have to burn their agricultural waste or throw it away, but they can be part of our project and sell the agricultural waste to us. So we began the project by preliminarily engaging the community farmer groups and the individual farmers in the community. And we didn't leave out the chiefs, the opinion leaders as well. So in order to reinforce the message of the Reffect Africa project, we involved the community leaders, the chiefs, the opinion leaders, and on the image on the right has the minister,
We've lost the audio.
I think we're lost him.
Okay. Were there many slides to go? There are a few. Oh, coming back in. So I think.
Hello,
Are you
yeah,
there?
here.
No.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm traveling. That's why I asked person to, but I'm seated now on my seat. So as you see on the slide, we've done an extensive community engagement is well accepted and well understood. So we have the maximum support and cooperation of various
We've lost you again. So
farming communities and farming groups, decision makers and policy makers in the strive and be sustained. Right. So we are.
all right, that's a bit
okay,
clearer.
but continue. I just connected again.
Very well. So we have been able to groups which we're going to work with to ensure that we have enough agricultural residue to feed the gasification process and to be able to ensure that we have enough feedstock from the farmers. We have formed, we have been able to train young people who have become aggregators who would pick up this waste from the various farming points to the plant. The gasification process is supposed to recycle these residues to generate electricity for the Tuna Secondary School, and most importantly, the ICT Center of NASCO feeding mines. The biochar from the gasification process is expected to form green energy, clean energy for cooking. We are looking forward to having cooling from the gasification plant to store food for the kitchen and also gas for clean cooking at the school's kitchen. But most importantly, the facility will also provide us with a water testing lab and a clean drinking water. Next, please. Right. So, but most importantly, we are able to sustainability is an integral part of the implementation process. So we have been able to develop an implementation, a sustainability model to ensure that the business model we create would create an ecosystem where entrepreneurs are able to develop business models through the collection and sales of agricultural residue to the plant, and also be able to sell back. the biochar to the community members. Then also we have been able to create maximum jobs, young people who manage in the engineering working on the plant.
Right. So continuing from where you ended, the Reffect Africa partnership with Miniplast is going to build a plastic recycling plant. So what that means is the energy we are producing from the Reffect Africa plant would serve the school during the evening, because during the day the school do not need a lot of electricity to run, right? So the recycling plant by Miniplast is going to be run based on the electricity we are going to generate during the day, and then the electricity we generate during the night would be used by the school 100%. The next slide, please. So how do we confirm sustainability and prevent greenwashing? So the Reffect Africa plant produces zero waste, which means that every single part of the process cycle is important, and we utilize every single resource. And so in that cycle, we ensure that no waste is made, and that every single part is useful to the society. And then we create tangible jobs which people can see and be a part of. So farmers get paid, aggregators get paid, transporters and individuals contracted to sell the biochar generated by the plant also are formed part of the project, and it makes them know that this is a sustainable project and not that we pretend it to be a sustainable project. So how do we measure and monitor security of supply? Since there are multiple options of agricultural waste to feed the plant, it gives us variety of options to choose from. And so based on the seasonalities of the planting, and then the harvesting, we ensure that we get the waste of every single possible or viable agricultural waste that can feed the plant. So it means that we have different sources, and so the risk at which, or the risk at which we are going to get is going to be minimized. And then we have adequate storage facility. So most importantly, the pelletizer we have is going to store biomass in a compressed form. So it means that we can have a lot of waste at a particular time compressed into miniature forms for future use, and then a very large storage facility that is going to keep the agricultural waste. So it means that there is constant supply of agricultural waste. So basically that is the ecosystem we have developed for the Reffect Africa project here in Ghana, and it can be replicated elsewhere as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much to all of you for your presentation. We'll quickly move on to the SESA project. Over to you, Charles.
Yes, thank you, Zach. And I'll present on behalf of Magdalena, who was has an emergency that she needed to attend to today morning. So I'm Charles Ogando, and I'm the SESA project coordinator for Wetu. Wetu leads the demonstration actions for the SESA project in Kenya. So basically, what is the SESA project? SESA stands for Smart Energy Solutions for Africa, which is a collaborative project between the EU and Horizon 2020 and 9 African countries, Kenya, Ghana, South Africa, Malawi, Namibia, Tanzania, Rwanda, and Nigeria. And the key aim of SESA is to provide energy access and sustainable business models for mostly underserved areas.
So this is done through demonstration actions, which Wetu is leading. And we have several local living labs in Ghana, Malawi, Morocco, and South Africa. And these demonstration actions will further be replicated in Namibia, Nigeria, Rwanda, and Tanzania. And through this, we expect to facilitate the development of scalable and replicable energy access innovations. And throughout the continent, through the collaboration with European partners and African partners, which is a mix of SME partners, policy dialogue, government stakeholders, and industry leaders. And what are some of the objectives of the SESA project? Is to inform the collaborative, So it's to boost accessibility of innovative, affordable, and efficient renewable energy solutions in Africa. How this is done is through an online toolbox of the solutions that will be developed and tested, which will later be shared for industry stakeholders, anyone who's of interest, was interested in renewable energy access and use cases that will be piloted. So we have online toolboxes, and there's also an online toolbox which is being created. And we also have extensive capacity building programs through North to South exchange projects. And we also look to inspire renewable energy uptake through facilitating energy exchange and partnerships between European and African partners on sustainable energy innovations. And this involved a bit of peer-to-peer exchanges. And so a lot of some of the partners from Africa traveling to Europe for peer-to-peer exchanges last year in May 2023. And this year, and we've had other peer-to-peer exchanges between European partners coming to African living labs, starting with Kenya. We had visits to Kenya and the Kenyan living labs. We had a visit to the Rwandese validation sites. We had a visit to the Ghanaian validation sites, and this peer-to-peer exchanges are expected to continue throughout the project period. And the other objective is to initiate and enable innovators in African urban and rural communities to leap to sustainable energy solutions. So all these solutions that are being tested in different setups with a mix of urban, peri-urban, and rural settings to be able to have a good comparison of the technologies, their efficacy and efficiency in different contexts, and see whether they can be replicated and taken up in different contexts. So this process is being led through a co-creation process with the users and different stakeholder groups. And further to this, we've had some policy roundtables to bring government and regulators more into the process and the project, and make sure that these initiatives are being adopted by governments and influencing policy, because this is one key area that is still lagging behind, if you allow me to use the word. So another objective is to implement by co-developing innovative and replicate innovative energy solutions tailored to urban and rural contexts across Africa, as I mentioned earlier. And this has also seen the project go further to also have more seed calls and 2 seed funds. One was in 2022, focusing on the validation actions, and in last year in 2023, we had another one for the replication actions, where we have local African entrepreneurs coming into incubator programs and access to financing to be able to scale some of the use cases that are being tested in the different living labs. And then the long-term vision is to create a lasting impact and foster long-term partnerships and exchange of innovative, sustainable energy solutions. Of course, we understand and we appreciate through even this webinar that there needs to be more collaboration for energy access to really take that lead that needs to be taken within the African context. So integrating, so this is being done through integrating the innovations initiated and and validated by the project into decision-making processes. As I mentioned, we've had some policy roundtables, and further discussions have been conducted with the different living labs, with the different governments in the different countries, hoping that we can have this solidly embedded in policies and policy frameworks. So in terms of the approach is to focus on a modular approach. So as I mentioned, I lead the demonstration actions as WETU, which are initially being tested in the Kenyan Living Lab. And then various aspects of the tested innovations are to be validated in different socioeconomic contexts in Ghana, South Africa, Malawi, and Morocco. And then these learnings from the validation actions will further go towards replication actions. As I mentioned, we have Tanzania, Namibia, Rwanda, and Nigeria who've come on as replication countries and leading the replication actions based on what we've been testing throughout project period since October 2021, running up until next year, 2025, then September 31st. So we've had peer-to-peer exchanges across the different pilot living labs and with European cities. We've had city-to-city exchanges and living lab exchanges. Yes, so the approach is quite integrated, and we have co-designing of the prototypes, starting with the Kenyan living labs, then co-validation within the different countries, then co-replication and co-dissemination. These actions, we have our websites and our different platforms where we disseminate a lot of our project actions and our project work on a month by month and on a regular basis. And I'll share some of the handles in the presentation. You can follow some of the work that we're doing, both from the project and in different partner project websites. So what are some of the technologies that are being focused on in the SESA project? We are focusing on electric mobility across the different living labs in Kenya, Morocco, and South Africa. And we are looking at circular economy approaches and having circularity in our approaches and using productive use of energy to promote circular economy approaches. And in what we are doing, we're using a lot of lithium-ion batteries, and we understand the cost and the environmental implications of using this technology. So we also have second life batteries and promoting use of second life batteries in the different use cases. We have the water, energy, and food nexus, and we're using water pumping for different use cases, including agriculture and water purification, clean, safe drinking water purification in the different living labs. And we also have e-waste and e-waste recycling and e-waste collection, and really pushing this to be adopted across different living labs and the validation and demonstration sites. So all this, most of these verticals are powered by solar mini grids and with lithium-ion storage and deep cycle battery storage in some contexts. And what is a key focus for us is having technology that is climate-proofed and can withstand the rigors of very rapidly changing climate. This is why we focus on using productive use of solar energy, solar power, and use cases and use case appliances that are climate-proofed and can be adopted into the future. And we are also piloting clean cooking in two contexts, in Ghana and Malawi. But the key thing also is promoting energy efficiency and using appliances and technologies that are energy efficient and promote the use of sustainable energy access and energy use. So in the Kenyan living labs are based in Homa Bay, Kisegi, which is a rural location in Homa Bay County. Then we have Katito in Kisumu County. So these two sites are the demonstration sites where we have different use cases. So we have solar charging hubs which are integrated with large PV panels and PV modules, the BOS, balance of energy system with central battery storage and inverter systems to increase energy accessibility for a range of different electrical needs within the community. And we aim to integrate sustainable off-grid energy access with sectoral linkages to fishing, where in the rural living lab in Kisegi, we have solar fishing lanterns for Mena night fishing. Mena is a local fish, which is called silver cyprinid. And we are promoting sustainable fishing practices through giving solar fishing lanterns. We have water pumping for irrigation and water pumping for clean, safe drinking water, both surface abstraction and groundwater abstraction. Surface abstraction from the lake in the rural living lab. And we have groundwater abstraction from a borehole with a purification system in the peri-urban living lab. And then we have, this is distributed through water purification systems and our water ATM network. We also have electric mobility, solar powered irrigation. And right now we're just actually, I'm in the field. We have a launch of our solar powered cold rooms. So as I mentioned, presenting from Mandela, so maybe this was not updated yet, but we are launching solar cooling through walk-in cold rooms today in close to our rural living lab. And in Ghana, we have clean cooking. We have 2 living labs, one of them in Accra and Atwima. So in Ghana, the validation demonstration actions explore clean cooking through waste to energy solutions, where we have local organic waste, which is pineapple extracts and other feedstocks, which are connected by EcoNexus, and industrial cook stoves, and then they produce industrial cook stoves, and then they also do biogels and biofuels, which are then supplied to schools in Accra and Kumasi. And this is a picture of the EcoNexus team with the bioethanol clean cooking technology. And we have a second living lab in Ghana, which focuses on the areas of Bikoso, Bedabur, and Kwame Ado. So these 3 villages have been connected through a microgrid network, which is solar powered and with battery storage, which so this microgrid supplies energy to individual homes and some businesses. So in South Africa, we have the South African Living Lab, where the focus is offering clean energy access through a containerized off-grid solar system. So in the South African validation site, as I mentioned, we have the PV panels, and these PV panels are coupled with the second life EV batteries for the stationary energy storage and for community energy access to charge a small fleet of micro utility EVs. These are 3-wheelers, and the different use cases now are being piloted. And we have small electric vehicles. We have the info spots in Alisdale for local information access. And then we have some facilities. There's a Care Alisdale creche or kindergarten and offices, which are powered by the same living lab from the Alisdale facility. And in Malawi, we have 2 sites, one in Karonga and Kabutu and Waliranji. So in Malawi, we have 2 use cases that are being tested, one of them being clean cooking in Waliranji and Kabutu. So the validation attempts to adapt and validate the MIG biocooker and develop a local material supply chain by testing new biomass alternatives and develop new value chains and circular business model for local entrepreneurs and communities. I think clean cooking is a big challenge throughout Africa and in this case in Malawi. And this is being tested through the MIG biocooker, which is still under the prototype phase and soon to be launched in June of this year. in Walerangi and Kabuto. And we also have solar irrigation in the Malawian Living Lab, which focuses on the northern part of Malawi, which is in Karonga, being led by an SME partner called Smart Energy Enterprise. And they sell solar-powered irrigation systems to smallholder farmers, specifically targeting rice farmers. And they have currently installed 10 operational pumps with a goal of up to 25 within the SESA project. And then we have the Moroccan validation living lab, which is focusing on Benguir and Marrakesh. So in the urban context, the focus is on piloting electric mobility, which is being done in Marrakesh, Fez, Agadir, and Ben Guerir. So for the urban living lab, we have about 40 scooters that are deployed in Marrakesh, Fez, Agadir, and Ben Guerir. And these scooters have a mileage of between 50 to 60 kilometers. And they have 10 charging hubs across cities for the mopeds. And the AC charging stations are grid connected, except the hub at the university. And the university is solar powered. And in future, Pogo will develop a battery swapping system to complement the grid connected system and for easier energy access and charging. So this is a photo of the EVs. And in the Moroccan Living Lab, in the Rural Living Lab, we have an off-grid energy system, which is in Ben Guerir. And it's a microgrid system that's 20 to 30 kilowatt peaks, which will supply power to nearby houses and a water pump to pump water from water boreholes for irrigation purposes. And the off-grid system will also power rural households and offer lighting and energy for daily use. Other uses related to outdoor activities are also planned, such as water pumping, info spots, and further info spots. So this is a pic of the solar off-grid system in Guarir and an overview of the rural sites. So this is a quick image of the logos of the partners. We have about more than 29 partners from the EU and in Africa. So thank you so much. And these are some of the handles that you can use to follow the SESA project. And I hope that I've done Magdalena's presentation justice. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Charles. All right, so now we hand over to SophiA. So we have Michael. I think we're supposed to have Nicholas, but I don't think he's here. But I hand over the floor to you, Michael.
Yeah, I have the first 11 slides. Can you see them?
Now I can, yes.
Okay. So good morning, everyone. So we are basically doing similar things as what we heard from the other projects, except we are focusing it towards hospitals, and because hospitals have an additional need that is cooling of the medicine and the blood plasma. That's the main focus of our project. So let's see. Here you can see all our partners, the 13 partners from 8 countries, 5 of them from Africa. And the pictures from the kickoff meeting in October 21. 50 participants came to Karlsruhe, to our university. Project will last until end of September next year. So we may not be able to answer some of those questions, the 4 questions you had, Zach, but we'll see. So we will focus, or we are focusing on safe and clean drinking water, on hot water and steam. And as I said before, refrigeration of the medicine at +5, because you can't keep ointments at 40 degrees ambient. Then we have low temperature storage at -30, because one of our partners is a hospital run by a German foundation operating in Africa. And they were also part of the project proposal, and they said that they have a big issue with blood plasma for doing operations. At that time, they had to, when someone came in for an operation, they had to bring their own blood donor, which no longer is allowed in Burkina Faso. But now with our system, they can keep blood plasma on site. And then depending on what kind of pandemic we are in right now, if it's Ebola or Corona or some new stuff, we also have a small space for -70 for cooling certain vaccines. And then of course we do have electricity supply, just not as huge as in some of the other projects. Also country-wise, we have some countries which I haven't seen in the other projects yet. Burkina Faso, where Operieren in Africa, has their hospital just at the south end, at the border to Ghana. And you see the picture of this hospital here. This is prior to installing our SophiA system. We will see on the next slide, all this area here is now covered with PV and provides clean drinking water and refrigeration. The next sites will be in Cameroon at this hospital, Adea, and then we have a health center in Uganda. So here, just at the Lake Victoria, and then the fourth installation will be in Malawi. And those are the main installations in the 4 countries. And in addition to that, we have what we call a PV med port. You will see a couple of slides down. And that is also installed in all those 4 countries. And manufacturing in Africa happens here in Cape Town at our partner Everflow. So let's have a look at how they are building those systems. Here you see in the upper left-hand corner CAD drawing, and then they were putting the things together. And we do have frequent staff exchange. So this is a student from Karlsruhe, from our university, and this employee from Everflow, and they're working together on the refrigeration system. And then they had the testing at the factory at Everflow. So one of them is the water container, and the other one is the refrigeration container, and they are fully 100% supplied by PV electricity. Then we had the transport to Burkina Faso of the first 2 containers. That means refrigeration container and water container. You can see them here, and they are placed on some foundations so that if there's heavy rain, they are not flooded. And here on the next slide, you see the SophiA containers ready. They're already built up. We installed all the PV panels, and this was the team, a multinational team from Switzerland, Germany, South Africa, Burkina Faso, Ghana, I think, installing these or commissioning the containers. And what we have in addition to the cooling and the clean water preparation is solar cooking. One method is with a solar reflector. That's the picture to the upper right. It's Scheffler, Wolfgang Scheffler is also part of the project. He invented these Scheffler reflectors. And by concentrating the energy, the beams from the sun to this spot, you can produce something like 300, 400 degrees hot surface on this aluminum block, and can use it for cooking. And in addition, as a kind of an energy storage, we have for excess electricity, we can put the excess electricity converted into heat and then produce steam. And the steam is used for cooking also in this hospital. So both of these installations are also installed in this hospital in Leo in Burkina Faso. And then we do have this other technology, what we call the PV med port, for outpost situations. So people can sit in the shadow. There are the batteries in the banks, and then also PV panels there. And you see some more pictures of these PV med ports and how they are assembled on one of the next slides. Currently, our team is working on designing the second generation because we got some feedback from the local people in Burkina Faso and also other African countries, and they said it's a very nice system, very elaborate, but might be a little bit too complicated. And what we already found out is that it's very complicated, yeah, almost almost impossible to get the components for our propane and CO2 systems and also the refrigerant. So we are kind of redesigning and optimizing the refrigeration system and making everything more compact so that everything fits the cooling and the water treatment into one container. Because during the transport from South Africa to Burkina Faso, it turned out that one container arrived 4 weeks earlier than the other one, and we would like to avoid that in the future. So here are some pictures from this PV Met pod. You can see here, yeah, this is how it comes on site with the PV panels, a lot of metal beams, and then the benches, and then they assemble it. Just need 2 or 3 people to do it, and then you have power supply, and which is not shown in this picture, but there's a small refrigerator to cool medicine, and if it's like a pharmacy spot, then we can have a small container. It's I think a 10-foot container, and then this container contains the refrigerated space for the medicine. In addition to all the technical work, we're also doing a lot on dissemination, and we established already in 22 what we call International Sustainability Summer School. We had it in Rapperswil in Switzerland at our partner SPF from the Eastern Switzerland University of Applied Sciences. And last year we had it in Brașov in Romania. And this year will be in September in Karlsruhe in Germany. There are still a few empty spaces. So if in case you do have students who would like to participate, please have a look at our website. It's shown here on the flyer, so I guess you get the slides, and then the students could click there and register. And because we say that sustainability is not a matter of wealth of the people participating, we have organized some sponsors, some industry sponsors. So the entire week, including accommodation and food and drinks and everything, and technical visits, is only €100 for the student. And the rest is covered by sponsors. We also had some train the trainers for the technical stuff at the hospitals. So far, only for Burkina Faso and Uganda. We will do a second round for the technical stuff from Malawi and from Cameroon. And here you see some pictures from Karlsruhe. That was the refrigeration training, and here are some slides, some pictures from the training in Switzerland for the solar training. And now it should be Nicolas Kigundo. I don't know if he's there. Nicolas, are you there?
Michael.
Yes,
Yes.
okay, then you can take over from here. This is your slide.
Okay, thank you very much. Welcome everyone to our presentation. We are trying to look at sustainability of the SophiA project. And basically, we've done, or we are doing 3 things. The first thing is to do the life cycle assessment, focusing on global warming potential of the system. As Michael has explained to you, we are also going to do a life cycle costing. What does it cost to put the SophiA systems together, the container, the PV Mediport, and also the Schaeffler reflectors for cooking. And also we are doing the social impact assessment or acceptance of the project. So what we have done here is what's going on in Burkina Faso, the installation of the reflectors for cooking. This was part of our acceptance phase 1, a project entry in Cameroon. This is our water bottle, the logo, and then this is the initial acceptance study in Burkina Faso. I was also done the same in Uganda. Now, also for the life cycle assessment, what we're trying to look at is that the things we are using come from the earth, the minerals, and then from there we take them to the factory for fabrication. Let's say the solar panels, they are transported and their emissions in there, and then eventually they reach the customer. Okay, next slide, please. So we are trying to do some comparisons on the emissions, the environmental impact of the technology. And the first light green is the emission from our PV system. The green one is when we have the PV system and then we back it up with a diesel because power goes off in many parts, but of Africa, we have the PV system 92% of the time. And now the light purple is the when we have the diesel generation off grid, and then we have a mix of a 50-50. So of course, we've known that renewable energy is clean, but we didn't have a good indication of how clean it is. And then these numbers are able to show that if we are looking at emission of about 30% from the PV, when we do the diesel only is twice that. And also the combination of 50-50 doesn't give us something good. But we're able to see, because the project will generate water, and per liter, we are getting very little emissions to get a liter of water. We also looked at the emissions from 5% of the storage of the medicine, -30 for the blood plasma, and -70. And we are able to see that the technology actually is a good way of managing our environment better than what would others think of. And next slide, please. So the issue of the sustainability, what we've been able to do, this is a team of, they would be trainers from Uganda and Burkina Faso, going through training in Switzerland on the solar panel. And also we hope that this technology should be able to give us the unused water at the hospital, cooking of food for the admitted patients or the staff. And these technologies, we should have people already trained to be able to handle them. And then also the issue of trying to get some of the things locally available. Now, in terms of the marketing of the technology also for sustainability, the cooling system could be something that can be incorporated to the fruit growers to store fruits and vegetables, or even for beef in abattoirs or outlets, supermarkets where these services are needed. So again, as Mike has said, we are getting into these internships of students to be able to learn about the technology, so that there's a backup of maintenance, the simple maintenance of the system. As Michael mentioned, it's a very complex system if you are not exposed to it. So we are trying to build into this. Now, also what we are trying to do is that the amount of water generated might be a little bit more than what's needed for the hospital. So we are linking up the hospital with the communities nearby, and they can sell this water at half of what the bottled commercial water could cost, and then this money can go back to maintain the system. Also, we are encouraging the owners of the projects who would be the districts here in Uganda or the Ministry of Health elsewhere, maybe to make a small budget for this, but also as part of the acceptance that if people accept this, then there is a cause for demand for the technology, and then we can have more containers, more shelf-flash screens demanded, and then can be put at these facilities to ease on the energy requirement and the burden in Africa. I hope this was the last slide. Thank you.
You have this one. It's
yes, I think Michael, you go on this.
it's a joint workshop yeah, and you're just it's on the 4th and 5th of November, and if you're interested to join, there you have the email address. The IIF or IRR, this International Institute of Refrigeration, Ina Colombo, is doing all the the communication and dissemination in our project. You can contact her, or you can contact Michaela Dudita at the Eastern Switzerland University of Applied Sciences. It will be on this seminar on sustainable cooling with natural refrigerants and solar thermal energy for West Africa. So.
Thank you very much, both of you. That was a really fascinating presentation. And I'll hand over to our final project being presented, which is SteamBioAfrica.
Hi, good morning or good afternoon, whichever time zone you're in. My name's Hugh Parry. I'll try and get my camera focused right. And I'd like to talk to you about SteamBioAfrica. So if you could put the first slide up, and I'll tell you what we're about. And my colleague will then tell you, Colin Lindick from Namibia will tell you what we're doing and what we're challenging with and where we're going. So can we have the first slide, please? Right, very simple. Try to keep this as punchy as possible. What's SteamBioAfrica about is trying to turn problems into opportunities. Now, I know that might sound a bit slick, but really it is. So if we go to the next slide, what are the issues? If we look at Southern Africa as a whole, it has some of the highest income inequality as measured by Gini coefficients in the world. Now, some of that's a legacy of apartheid, but it's still a bad situation and going on. Over 120 million hectares across Southern Africa is degraded due to bush encroachment and alien invasives. Encroachment is a global phenomena where woody biomass takes over the land and suppresses herbaceous growth. The extreme elements that I've seen in Namibia and South Africa, it's so impenetrable you cannot actually get through it. It will tear your skin, it'll tear the skin of a rhino. The primary industrial source, energy source across Southern Africa is coal. 200 million tons, over 200 million tons of coal are mined in South Africa every year. Industry wants to change, but if you convert from coal to a biomass source, you lose a lot of efficiency. You also have to spend a lot of money making that transition. If you look at a wider impact on domestic households, over 80% of sub-Saharan Africa relies on solid biomass of various sources for domestic heating and cooking. The UN claim, and I've no reason to argue with them, that that causes over 600,000 early deaths every year, primarily with women and young children. Next slide, please. So what are we going to do about it? How are we going to address this? What we want to do is turn the two problems of going to a clean, secure, and affordable energy and creating value from the bush. People will not harvest the bush if it's a cost. It's like any commercial proposition. If you can create value from it, people will harvest it. You will address two problems at once. So what we want to do, and what our concept is to turn this unwanted woody biomass, the encroacher bush, the alien invasives on this Cape, into a drop-in replacement for coal and domestic fuel for heating and cooking. This will have a significant impact. If you consider in Namibia, You've got rural unemployment well over 50%. It will also mitigate climate change impacts. Next slide, please. So my last slide before I pass on to Colin is how we're going to do it. We had a previous project in Spain, rural Spain, where we took a novel approach to torrefaction. Torrefaction is a mild form of pyrolysis. It can convert woody biomass into a drop-in coal replacement. So we proved it in Spain, where we could use pine, torrefied pine, as in a lime kiln as its direct replacement for coal. Unfortunately, most torrefaction technologies have not commercially succeeded, to put it politely. Various factors about that, but I don't really want to go into that. I want to talk about what we've done. Our processing technology is built on many, many years of the use of superheated steam as a drying technology. I first came across this technology probably about 25, 30 years ago. I stimulated the SteamBio project in 2012, where we achieved in a superheated steam environment, inert conditions at 230 degrees C. The superheat strips out volatiles, so something like pine then becomes usable as a cooking fuel, whereas pine is actually very resinous and it will contaminate food and make food unpalatable. What we're achieving now in Namibia, which I'll pass on to Colin in a minute, is temperatures actually over 290 degrees C. So with the next slide, I'll let Colin carry on with the presentation.
Thanks, Hugh. So our objectives in this project are to upscale and replicate this novel steam technology. And in doing so, this will stimulate wide-scale ecosystem restoration through the selective and sustainable harvesting of these problematic and invasive biomass species across Southern Africa. The resulting torrefied biofuel will then be useful as a drop-in, as Hugh mentioned, and we are targeting the industrial energy users in the region who are currently dependent on coal. The replacement of coal with torrefied biomass will require little to no retrofitment costs and will also not translate in any downgrading of thermal performance. So these are huge advantages over a non-treated biomass. The resulting widespread ecosystem restoration will also obviously have co-benefits. It will improve land productivity, biodiversity, groundwater resources, increase rural economic development, as well as overall enhancing climate resilience for the region, which is also the region that's most susceptible to climate change. After achieving large-scale industrial deployment, this will also allow for the same biofuel to be made available in domestic markets as a cost-effective cooking and heating solution for particularly low-income households who are generally in the region not tied into the grid. And of course, this has health benefits as well, as Hugh has indicated. Next slide, please. So to date, we've developed a demonstration plant in central Namibia, located at the Cheetah Conservation Fund's Biomass Technology Demonstration Center. The demonstration plant is pictured on the slide and has a throughput capacity of about 250 kilos per hour of biomass feedstock. And this translates to a biofuel production capacity of approximately 130 tons of biofuel per month. In the background of the photo, you'll also notice the extensive encroacher bush resource that affects in Namibia over 45 million hectares of land. And historically, this used to be a savanna ecosystem. Alongside the demonstration system, the project has emphasized taking a holistic approach. So it's not only about the technology itself, but the whole value chain. This includes having conducted extensive life cycle ecosystem service, soil logistics, gender equality, and social inclusivity research, which ensures that we take science-based principles and data-driven decision-making in the project, and that's an embedded part of this project. We have achieved torrefaction, but we are still we have ongoing optimization processes in place to further improve the biofuel characteristics and the energy efficiency of the system. User trials, both on industrial scale and domestic scale, are currently underway, and the results are promising so far. The economic modeling, however, has indicated that the demonstration plant as it currently stands is not economically viable without further efficiency modifications. So our focus is now improving energy efficiency, automation, and value addition of the byproducts for the value chain. Next slide, please. So what comes next? We are busy finalizing commercial scale designs as seen on the slide. These designs, once finalized, will be costed and will form the basis of a bankable business plan required ultimately to raise capital and deploy the first commercial scale system, with others to follow. The commercial design is targeting a 10-fold throughput increase compared to the demonstration system. So the ongoing process optimization is obviously still required to ensure that the technology is being iterated and improved on, becoming as competitive and efficient as possible, which will obviously bolster the business case and also expedite commercial rollout. These further optimizations go hand in hand with continued user trials, especially as the biofuel characteristics will be also optimized and tailored towards different use cases. We aim to generate significant data-based evidence and real-world commercial experience in order to bolster investor and market confidence. Next slide, please. So we feel strongly that we have all the core facets of the project in place for the next chapter with regards to commercial rollout. We have 4 main components, including the technology providers and their inherent engineering capacities, the upstream biomass supply chain actors, the industrial energy markets within the region, i.e. the future clients of the biofuel, or future buyers rather, and the project developers who comprise a mix of European and African partners who are well positioned to commercialize this opportunity. Next slide, please. So some of the challenges we faced are we still are undergoing process optimizations and system optimizations. And to enable these further optimizations, we need additional engineering capacities. We need additional modifications to the plant that go beyond the current project scope. These modifications and additions are expected to yield significant efficiency gains, which will in turn allow us to validate the commercial viability of both the demonstration plant as well as future commercial scale plants. However, as I mentioned, these are going above and beyond the scope of the project. So we are now challenged with the fact that we need to raise additional funding to enable these further optimizations to happen, which will ultimately enable the commercial investment. Next slide, please. So to end off our presentation, our contact details are on the slide. If anyone is interested in more information, then please. I encourage you to contact you and I thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, all of you. So if all the panelists would like to open their videos and join, if anyone from the audience has any questions, I invite you to add them to the chat for any of the projects that we've heard from so far. But I'll start off with a question for all of you. What are the challenges in transferring some of these technologies which are maybe in part developed in Europe but implemented in Africa? And obviously Africa is not one place. Africa is a number of different countries and cultures with also different challenges. So whoever would like to answer first can open their mic and speak.
Well, I can say from our perspective, from the refrigeration, that what we implement with natural refrigerants, which means using propane and carbon dioxide and ethane, that some of the components are simply not available in Africa. So we had to fly them in, and also the refrigerants are difficult to get hold on in Africa, whereas in Europe it's a standard.
Yeah, I think I share the same sentiments. For our case, it's not just even the components, it's sometimes the sophistication of the systems. How do you navigate? How do you get the right skill set to navigate through those systems? So it's very, very important that they're simplified as much as possible and that you're able to get the replacements locally for some of the components.
Okay, from our point of view, sorry if you finish, yeah. From the SteamBioAfrica point of view, I think the biggest challenge was the logistics, not just shipping materials and watching on the shipping app as the load traveled down the west coast of Africa, but it was also your technical resource wanting to do everything remotely. Now, we're having a presentation today on Zoom, that's great, and it's got lots of value. But when you need detailed engineering resource, they need to be able to have the ability to get on site and do the work rather than do it over a remote access. To me, that would be the biggest challenge that we faced.
Well, from the perspective of, sorry if I, from the perspective of the Reffect Africa project, I agree with most of what the panelists mentioned. In our case, we also had difficulties with capacity building and technical support to bring spare parts to the location site, to the demonstration site, challenges with logistics, hard custom bureaucracy and duties, which increases time gaps and delays.
Yes, for us, for the SESA project, it's quite complex for us because it's a myriad of things, starting with even the technology itself, and even not being suited for some of our terrain, some of our contexts, and then we also have capacity building and support from OEM suppliers or even suppliers. You know, once the technology breaks down, getting suppliers or to support you with maintenance and OEM aspects is a bit of a challenge sometimes. And then we also have the costs. Some of the costs are quite prohibitive if you want sustainability, and because that cost eventually has to be transferred somewhere, and that normally is the end user. So then your cost of doing operations and doing business becomes very difficult. And then lastly, the capacity building element, of where if it's designed and built in Europe, we need to build local capacity, and sometimes that financing and funding to build that capacity might not be there. And even the time to do it with very limited projects timelines and periods are also quite prohibitive. So yeah, for us, it's quite a number of challenges.
I'd just like to, sorry, I know I answered the question. I'd just like to further to that, I'd like to point out that with time, we actually managed to progress more and more local technical engineering resource as we went on. So that has been a positive move that we've achieved by actually bringing in originally unplanned, but local engineering resource to actually deal with. And since we've done that, I feel that our we've moved quicker in the work that we've been doing.
Great, thank you very much. So there are a few questions coming in from our attendees. So the first one is, and I'm not sure for which project it is, maybe you'll understand better than me. The elephant in the room is the required CapEx for the conversion. How are you tackling that? I imagine it might be for SteamBioAfrica.
Sorry, CapEx.
CapEx.
Colin, do you want to do that or?
Yeah. Yeah, I believe that must be directed at us, given it came in during my part of the presentation. It's a good question. What we're doing is we're looking at this as a business case for the energy users that are currently using coal. So we're benchmarking our biofuel against coal prices. And we understand that as much as everyone wants to green transition away from fossil fuels, it needs to be cost competitive. So we're using the coal price in both Namibia and South Africa as a benchmark, and we're building a business case around that to show that our biofuel can actually compete on an energetic value basis with coal. And I think this is critical for anything to be sustainable and replicable, in that it has to be competitive in the existing market. So in terms of the CapEx, what we are doing is we are using the revised commercial designs now to go out to the market for pricing. We're also trying to localize as much of the manufacturing as possible. So we're looking at manufacturing within the region. So that's majority looking at South Africa as the manufacturing hub of the technology, instead of having to in future ship systems down from Europe or elsewhere. And then, of course, once we have the costing of the plant, the CapEx, we can build the rest of the project around that. Obviously, there's other costs like operating costs and development costs and so on and so forth. So these are all being factored into the business modeling for the bankable business case. And also on top of that, we've also been starting to engage
All right, frozen, Colin.
Financiers for the types of projects. Development banks, specifically renewable energies, already.
Got some problems with our connection here to Colin.
Sorry.
All right. Hopefully that answered the question more or less. So the next question, so I see one in the chat here as well. Actually, I'll jump to that one. I've run over a question to Amanita. Do you think it is appropriate to convert some climate data from European-wide meteorological data set to a high-resolution system to use it for African countries? If yes, which main principles must we follow? Sorry, you're muted, Ami.
Okay. So let me understand the question. It's, do I think it's appropriate to convert some climate data from European wide meteorological data sets to a high resolution system to use in Africa? Sorry, I'm just trying to see how I can break that down. So data sets from Europe to be used in Africa. I'm understanding it that the technology data sets from the technologies from Europe, and can that be used in Africa? Is that for fundraising purposes, for carbon credits? I think I just need a little bit more context to the question. I'm not able to make.
Yeah, I'm struggling to understand. For energy system modeling is the next comment.
Okay, I think partially maybe as a benchmark, but I think it's important that you use the data sets coming out of Africa for Africa application rather than try to use those for Europe. I think, as you mentioned earlier, Africa is not just one country, right? As Europe is not one country, but if Europe has a system for having this kind of data and using it for fundraising purposes, maybe it's the process of how that data is being used. That process can maybe be shared within the African context, but you have to include it in the Africa context. You can't just take Europe data and mimic it for Africa.
Thank you. All right. And so we have another question, which I think you can all answer, which is from Joseph Knoll, which it says, the energy transition is not a question of technology. It is a question on awareness, knowledge, and capital. What are you doing on knowledge information for the general public?
Yes, I think I can go first, as we are actually using some of Professor Knoll's systems, which are InfoSpots, which we have locally in some of our hubs. And we really trying to disseminate information on climate change, energy access. But then we are also competing with other information sources, other users interested. Are they willing to get this data? And even are they able to afford devices to access this data? These are some of the solutions we are trying to work out with different partners, including Joseph Knoll himself, with local InfoSpots bundled with information. Then also this has challenges in terms of cost of data and how prohibitive data access is in some contexts. So we are trying to work around this through using local InfoSpots collaboratively with technology and solutions providers like Basic Internet Foundation. Yes.
I'm going to add to that. I think in our own context, we have a lot of community engagement activities where we actually go to specific communities. We work with the local authorities, if they're chiefs, schools, to do some sensitization. We here in Freetown, we work with the Freetown municipality, who also has put regulations in place to support, especially on the sanitation aspect, but on the energy access, I think people just need solutions because access rates are so low. So if you have something viable that is also renewable energy, the uptake seems to be a lot more acceptable and quicker.
I'd just quickly add to, as we've done a lot of stakeholder engagement, a lot of our dissemination activities have been to not just specialist activities, but also to general public. So yes, we've held presentations at European biomass fairs and so forth, but also in Southern Africa, and that we've had biomass. There's lots of community engagement activities that we've taken place.
But also we focused on industrial markets. So we've been directly communicating with large coal users, for example, in Namibia, Botswana, and South Africa. And these companies are the ones using.
So Zach, just to add on to what
coal per annum. So we were doing a lot of direct engagement as well.
Yeah, Zach, just to add on what Abinata and Ahu has said, have contributed. One key thing for us is user co-creation, also translating what we are doing to the local users with the local users as we develop the systems, We also bring in local communities in our processes, in our building of our systems, construction, so that they're able to translate what we are doing to the local communities. And then even before we do the construction, post-construction, and even as we develop the use cases, we collaboratively work together. Like now we are developing the cold room and the solar-powered cold storage. And we really work with the market women and the retail traders to really understand what solar can do, and for them to understand the systems, how do they work? Because this looks like very simple concepts, but they're very complex at the local level. So we really focus on co-creation in the different stakeholder groups, specifically our users at the local level.
All right, thank you all. That was those are very good answers, I think.
Zachary, it was
Yes.
raining here. I couldn't comment on the first question on the accessibility of the the challenges of the working in Africa. Their issue of some places being extremely remote, that getting there is a challenge. Now, where we are taking SophiA, we need to get onto a ferry, and the ferry has a schedule. So in a day, if you're doing a day's work, you plan for 3. And then, like the stands Michael showed, I have to get sand from the mainland, put in a truck, and I move on. Then there are also issues of the bureaucracy or the arrangements you have to go through before the technology is implemented. That's what I wanted to add on. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicholas. All right, and there's a quick question here for SteamBioAfrica. How can rural people living in remote areas in Namibia participate in the SteamBioAfrica project? There's a second part of the question, but I think you answered that in your presentation.
Yeah, you've got 46 million hectares of land degraded by encroachment. You've got high levels of rural unemployment. We're going to create jobs from that. There is only 3 million population, so there is only a finite amount of industrial use, but we are sitting next door to South Africa, which is the most industrialized country in Africa, with a need to displace 200 million tons of coal that's mined every year. So I think we can do an awful lot for the rural population of Namibia.
Okay.
And I think it's important to note that in Namibia, it's not the energy so much. I mean, Namibia is a tiny energy user on the global context, and also a tiny emitter, but we are very susceptible to the impacts of climate change. And currently we're going through a drought, another drought, which will have massive impact on the livelihoods of the rural populations who rely on agriculture, which is said to be around 70% of the population. So I think the upstream value chain of the biomass supply chain will be the most beneficial to Namibia as a country. And then, as you said, we could service and supply more industrialized countries like South Africa, who are neighboring.
Okay, thank you very much. I see there's a hand up in the audience, so I'm going to give you the microphone, Renee Moton. You can now unmute and ask your question. And if you don't, all right, well, I imagine that was an accident. Okay, so I'll ask you all another question now then. So obviously we've been talking about projects, and some of the go-to-market has already been talked about, but I think the biggest challenge always in these projects is after the funding stops, how are the projects going to go to market? How are they going to overcome the barriers and ensure that the technology is affordable and becomes a viable business, sustainably implemented in these countries?
I think I'll lead for us. As I think Colin's presented, we have identified what we need to do. Our business plan is a 5 to 10 year plan where we want to make a major increase into the market. When our project started off, the commission officer asked me, what about the IP? What about the other people taking over from you? I replied to the project officer, the opportunity is so large that even if we have a small proportion of it, it's fantastic. What we need to do is we do need to secure additional funding, as anyone does who wants to cross the valley of death, and that's never an easy ask, and that's what we're currently seeking to do now.
I think
yes, Zachary, what we are doing here in is SophiA. I'll take case of Uganda where I'm residing, but also in charge of the facility in Malawi. What happened is that we picked the less privileged sites. So whereby the technology is kind of a game changer because there's no electricity at the island. So what we've done is to work with the district, the owners of the facility, kind of to budget for it as part of their work plan. Also, as a university, this facility offers the training. People go, those who are used to African education. You start about riverine lands and you pass the exam without ever seeing it. Or you start about the solar panel and you compute the energy without ever touching it. So I bring in these training components and also the ministry getting a small funding to pay the technicians there who make the things. So these things are being built into the project for the sustainability. Where we are working in Malawi is quite a big hospital and the energy is a big challenge. So the Catholic Diocese in the charge of hospital is seeing this as an opportunity that they are getting something through collaboration, which would have cost them a lot of money. So there's already that excitement that someone is giving you an opportunity and you cannot let it go. So I think also that's one thing, because at times if you take to someone who's already has an alternative, it's easy to neglect, but where we are having, there's no alternative. So that's a good thing, but also the issue of the of working with the ministries, the owners of the providing the services, and also the issue of the training the people there, all that goes into this sustainability. And we hope that also some water can be sold to generate some little income. So that's what the issues are thinking about. Also, we are doing a business model for the other who, if you take the thing to the private sector, a private hospital, how would it work? So we hope that at the end of the project, you have this data to give it to the would-be beneficiaries. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicholas. Passing to Ami.
Yes. So I think with our project here in Sierra Leone, because it's a demonstration site, which means it's a pilot. And during this phase is to get as much learnings and get the proof of concept solidify, so that way you can share those learnings and show the impact and also show the potential of having the systems being more replicable in a different context. And more importantly, for it to be affordable, I think smaller scales tend to be much more efficient, especially when you're talking about waste to energy technologies, because there's variable components. We've seen big waste to energy technologies that just fail because the feedstock is not readily available in time to feed the digesters, right? So when you have a smaller scale technology, it's easier to secure the feedstock. And one of the things that we've done here in Freetown is to deploy a digital tool, which is a waste management tool that somewhat acts as an Uber for waste management. So we can get data from waste being collected from waste collectors locally, and that's real-time data that basically informs when the technologies are being fed. Apologies. What happened? Something's happened. Excuse me. Did I lose? Okay, I think I may have lost internet. But yes.
No, we can hear you and see.
Oh, you can hear me. Sorry. So just making sure that there's small scale installations using digital technology to kind of automate the processes so you have the right data, and being able to show the impact, yeah, so that you're able to scale. I think all those will help and inform as you're ready to go to market.
Great, thank you. Giles, I see you've opened your mic.
Yes, thank you. I think for us in the SESA project and for way to lead in the demonstration actions, I think one important thing for us is carefully sizing the solutions to the user needs. And this starts even with the user needs assessments well before we deploy the technology, really responding to what really do our users or local communities need. And then we tie that with testing the solutions robustly, because like electric mobility is quite nascent. And with our experience, we make sure that we've tested the technology quite robustly before taking it to market. And then we couple this with innovative business models and making sure that we have revenue generation for sustainability, and looking at that project and looking at the different living labs from a sustainability perspective, also in terms of revenue and impact, not only revenue and impact in the long term, short and long term, but also making sure that we share experiences across the different living labs, like in the case of Kenyan living labs, and sharing these experiences with the Ghanaian, South African, Malawi, and Moroccan living labs, and seeing where we have a lot of similarities across the board and how we can share this knowledge and bring sustainability elements, because I think the conversation without revenue really and having innovative business models and approaches which really are tied to the user needs. Like for us, the communities need to travel, you offer mobility, you need clean, safe drinking water, we provide you with clean, safe drinking water. You need to store your produce because actually a lot of the produce comes from long distances. We give you solar cooling for that, and you need ice to store your fish because it's a fish predominantly fishing community and fishing area. We give you ice flakes for the fish, all solar powered. So then from that, we have really a connection or a nexus in between the solutions powered by solar power. So then we make sure that we have that environmental sustainability factored in, and then we have the innovative business models that make sure that the revenue generated is sufficient to keep the verticals running, but then not too prohibitive to deny our users access. So we think this go hand in hand, where you have innovative business model, size the technology and solutions correctly, and then have properly an income generating of our revenue approach from the get-go. And then we believe this ensures that we have long-term sustainability of our use cases across the different living labs, and information and knowledge sharing, testing across different contexts, because electric mobility in Kenya is different to Morocco, Malawi, South Africa. But then we make sure that we share our lessons throughout the course of the project through different technical sessions, and be able to improve on our solutions and our services.
Right, maybe if you want to add anything, Karoka, from Reffect Africa, and then I'll close the webinar.
Yes, then I think you all agree that these projects are mostly for research in Africa, and there are many challenges for securing operation in the future. We need to try to secure funding to ensure that the project can withstand after the project has reached the end of has led to the end of this project. And there's also many challenges that, for instance, in our project, in the Reffect Africa project, there are some opportunities, like for instance, byproducts such as charcoal can be valorized. There's no market, a consolidated market in that region, but some byproducts could also be valorized in the future and could provide more additional benefit to try to make the technology more profitable. Right now, there are many challenges with this technology. It's not cost competitive with other technologies, not even in Europe, especially for on-grid facilities. In off-grid projects, it could make more sense. It's not this kind of projects are more. We need to also think of the social aspects rather than only on the economic implications. That's in my opinion. Well, of course, there are many challenges to try to sustain the project after the funding or after it has reached the end of the project.
Okay. Thank you all. I just want to give you a huge thanks for all of your contributions. It's been incredibly interesting webinar. I've really enjoyed learning even more about all of your projects, and thank you also for the discussion. I'm sorry for any questions that weren't answered. Please do get in contact with the projects if you would like your question answered, but we've come to the end of our time together. And so thank you to all of the speakers, and thank you also to all of the participants who came and took part in this webinar. As I said, we will make the recording available as well as the slides in the coming days. Thank you, everyone.
And thank you. Thank you for organizing it and doing it. Thank you again.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you for hosting us. Bye-bye.
Thank you.